What if Naruto had swift release? A series long awaited to be returned or at least continued on the channel. Since even now, almost a year later, I still get comments requesting its return. And if you've been keeping up with my community tab posts, you would know that I have been doing a series of polls to determine which series that are currently unfinished I will be continuing or rebooting and in which order. Obviously, this much loved series of What If Naruto Had Swift Release will be going first, as it got a majority of the votes on a 1,000 vote strong poll, meaning it averaged between 400 and 600 votes, which is pretty intense. It's pretty interesting as well, seeing as I didn't expect you as an audience to enjoy this series as much. But I've been blabbering long enough. Here is the long-awaited Part 4 to What If Naruto Had Swift Release. As the remaining participating genin gather back up after the 1 month time skip where they had time to train or relax either within the leaf or at their respective villages, they see the packed stadium of villagers, nobles, and even clansmen as they prepare for what's about to happen. What is about to happen is that they are about to charge straight forward and fight for their place within shinobi society. Be that the rank of Chunin, a special place within their village's military force, or even the private guard of a daimyo. Some might even have malicious intent. Sand Village. But that's what we're here to discover. So, here on Going Out, we shall be going over the events of the last and final test to the Chunin exams. I would like to take a quick break here to say I do apologize if there are any plot holes in the story from here on going forward. Maybe if I retcon something without mentioning it, I do apologize. Since this script is over a year old, there will be some kinks and things that I missed reading it back over. So if something seems out of place or odd, just know I probably missed an intent that I had originally that I probably did not write down. So if that happens, I do apologize, but let's continue. At face value, everything would seem normal, except for the fact that some of the genin had realized there must be a reason for why the proctors were changed, since when Hayate had originally introduced himself within the preliminaries, he said he would be the proctor for the third and final exam. But currently standing in his place is Genma, another shinobi from the Leaf. So some might be suspicious on what happened. Of course, us as fans know that Gecko or Hayate had actually been murdered by the Sand Shinobi Sensei, Baki. And as most of the participants had probably realized, two of the other participants are actually missing, that being Sasuke and Dosu. Dosu had also been murdered trying to sneak up on Gara during the 1 month and kill him before he became a problem, but had failed and in turn got himself killed instead. So whoever would have originally faced against Dosu gets a pass on this battle. On the other hand, we see that Sasuke is still currently training to the last second with Kakashi and at this very moment is probably heading here. But nonetheless, the fights must start. So the current proctor, Hayate, would call out for the two first participants. The first fight of the Chunin exams final, Naruto Uzumaki versus Neji Hyuga. And as the two arrive down on the battlefield and face each other, before Hayate would say begin, Neji couldn't help himself but to let some smug comments slip. Naruto would not take any of this to head, as he knows Neji is already a pre-existing dangerous opponent, and letting him get inside of his head will be a hassle. If Neji is even close to the power level Lee was on, Naruto knows he has to take this fully seriously. And how to take this more seriously than going all out from the start. Naruto would start off with an extreme speed kick right to the side of Neji, but Neji's dojutsu allows him to keep up with Naruto, at least in terms of movement. He would be able to block it as he would skirt around the field, but he had actually landed a successful Jugen strike with this block on Naruto's leg. Naruto would feel one of the chakra points in his leg close as he can no longer channel chakra through that point. He would charge his chakra into that point as much as he could, as it will finally start flowing once again. If he keeps getting hit like that, opening chakra points are going to be way too hard. So he better make use of his shadow clones, or at least his swift clones. He would swiftly create 3 clones. I know, I want to die. As he would once again proceed to attack Neji, this time from separate directions. This bout would go on for a while until all clones are in proximity of Neji. He would then find quite a resourceful way of spinning. He would then disrupt all 3 clones and almost hit the real Naruto. He had just performed the 64 palm rotation, or the palm rotation, I apologize, as not only Naruto, but the members of the audience and Hyuga clan are all shocked. Not only will Neji proceed to do the 64 palms, which is a technique usually reserved for the nobles of the clan or the main house of the clan, which also applies for the palm rotation. No one taught it to him, which at least means that he figured it out from watching others do it. Neji truly is the prodigy of the Hyuga clan. Naruto, after being stunned for a mere moment, would proceed to run around as he creates 10 clones, the max amount that he can create, as they would all once again charge at Neji, this time having somewhat of a medium range. They would then proceed to throw kunai after kunai as Neji would unleash the other technique, or the alternate technique that he had learned, the 64 palms, once again shocking the Hyuga clan members as they thought, once again, that he would not have accomplished something like this. Whilst in Naruto's mind, this means nothing. It could merely be a string of Jugen strikes. So he would continue his onslaught. He would proceed to make 2 more clones as him and his 2 clones would surround Neji. They would try and take opportunistic strikes and even use something like the Gale Palm or maybe the Lightning Arc to try and throw Neji off. And obviously one of these would eventually hit. This is when a clone would go in close and Neji would get his first strikes off, at least in this specific clash. But this is where something strange happens. One of Naruto's clones who had gotten behind Neji would leap in as they try and strike. Neji would not have been the wiser until the clone lowered closer to the ground. Neji would then spin around in a palm rotation, bursting both that clone, the other clone that remains, and Naruto away. So, 2 clones dispersed, and this memory would rush to Naruto's head. He's finally able to put it together. The Byakugan has a weak spot. He can't determine exactly where it is, but as per how the shadow clone had dove, he could at least assume that it is somewhere near the nape of the neck. And this is where Naruto would put his new plan into action. He would berate Neji with 9 shadow clones as he would secretly create another shadow clone to run and circle around Neji. For if they could keep his focus on them, it might cloud his vision for long enough for this clone to get into a general vicinity or widespread of the weak spot, since we know the further the distance, the larger the opening. So, the entire theory is that the clone would then proceed to throw a kunai at Neji's weak spot, or at least his blind spot. And that's pretty much what would happen. Naruto would see as the kunai flies from the edge of his vision and almost hits Neji in the nape of the neck. He didn't even realize it, but he did do a palm rotation once again to get all these clones off of him. He's running pretty low on chakra and didn't even notice the kunai coming towards him, meaning Naruto was right. There is a massive blind spot within the vision of the Byakugan. So as long as he uses that to his advantage, he should be able to win this. Chakra wise, he's still better off than Neji, since his clones hadn't been dispersing into swift release, or at least swift damage, as they would usually release these wind blades and lightning and all that type of stuff to both slice and damage the opponent. But instead, he had been keeping as much chakra as possible, since that is one of the advantages he has over a lot of his current opponents. So now Naruto would proceed to use this incoming information and would try to use the opening, the blind spot that he knows Neji has. He would dash around in his insane speed, as he knows Neji can't fully keep up. He can merely predict what Naruto would do next with a vision of his Byakugan. But this is where Naruto gets into that blind spot and lunges directly at Neji. Even the 1 second Naruto was late to get out of Neji's blind spot, it would be enough for Neji to realize Naruto had found it, and thus he would create a palm rotation dome. Naruto would be able to stop just short of getting hit full force, as sweat would drop. He now knows this is no longer an option. Neji had figured out his plan, and Neji would even reveal this. So, I see you found the Byakugan's weakness. Well, that's what this palm rotation is for. It covers for that weakness. Obviously, the smug Neji, which he is, would proceed to go on a rant about how destiny hasn't chosen Naruto, that Kekkei Genkai will go to uselessness as he was never destined for greatness. He was destined to be alone and in the dumps, and so on and so forth. Naruto would strongly disagree with this, and for the first time this fight, he would go back to the normal Naruto we know, biting back as he usually does. He would say that it does not matter what Neji does, he will break through. And how he'll break through? Well, this is how. He creates 2 clones and immediately charges towards Neji at full speed. Neji knows his only hope is the palm rotation, as Naruto pulls out a Rasengan. The closer he gets, the more Naruto thinks, and the more time slows down in his head. He figures out if he creates the Rasengan in an opposite propulsion, or at least in an opposite rotation, he should be able to disband Neji's dome. And that's what he does. In his weird slow time mindset, he would clash with Neji's dome, as it would disperse a small place within the dome. As Naruto's hand and Rasengan slip through, it starts to fade. That's when Naruto has the thought, since as he does clash with the dome, it starts shooting out like needles. Naruto realizes in this exact moment what was wrong with what him and Jiraiya were doing to add swift release to the Rasengan. They were trying to add swift release to the existing form of the Rasengan. What they should be doing instead is changing the shape of the Rasengan to match the nature. And in this case, he remembers Kakashi. Kakashi did something similar with lightning release and was able to release it in full force by shooting it in frontwards direction and containing it around his hand. Naruto, on the other hand, won't be using this. He would be using a similar action to the combination of Gale Palm and Lightning Arc, as his Rasengan would spike out, shoot, and fly towards Neji, something like spinning lightning. It was very odd to witness, as Neji almost saw it in slow motion himself, his dojutsu remembering every scene. As it clashes with him, it leaves a massive gash over his chest and shoulder. His arm falls limp. One of his eyes close and his dojutsu deactivates. He is currently panting as electricity bounces off of him. He is stunned. He can't move. He tries to say something, but Naruto appears in front of him. Don't say anything. Just sleep. As Naruto hits him on the side of the neck with a straight hand, Neji falls unconscious. Hayate declares the match in Naruto's favor, as the medical shinobi are called out to look after Neji. Naruto would raise his hand and ask if they can check out the injuries on his legs, since when the dome dispersed, it did somewhat go around his body, but his legs still got hit, and it might have even hit a few muscles and maybe even a few chakra points. So if he wants to save up on chakra, the medical shinobi would definitely help. So he would be literally cheered off the stage as everyone was impressed by that demonstration. Jiraiya, who was secretly in the audience, would prepare to leave as he is proud of his student. He had figured something out that Jiraiya himself would have never. But as he gets to the door, he says to himself, "Wait, how did he do that? I wasn't able to get a clear sign or vision on how it happened," as he would rush back into the stadium looking for Naruto. Naruto would not have returned to the waiting area, but instead went with the medical shinobi. So Jiraiya himself has a hard time finding Naruto. So from here on, he would scour the stadium to try and find his student. While this is happening, Hayate would call for the next match, Sasuke Uchiha versus Gara. Gara of the Sand would make his way down to the stadium, but there would be no reply from Sasuke Uchiha. Hayate would say the least he could do is move this battle up to the final fight, but if Sasuke still doesn't show, it goes in Gara's favor. This is when the next fight, which is Shino versus Dosu, or Shino versus Kankuro, I believe would happen, but Kankuro, as per normal, would give up or forfeit this match as he wants to retain his skills a secret for when the invasion begins. On the other hand, Dosu, who is not present, would be not put in Shino's place since this is Shino's victory. On the other hand, there is still one fight before the Sasuke versus Gara fight, being the Shikamaru versus Temari bout. This bout would probably go similar to canon, with there being mostly mid to long range combat, with Shikamaru and Temari getting each other on the fence multiple times. Shikamaru almost being skewered by Temari's fan multiple times in a row, but Temari getting stuck in Shikamaru's shadow inevitably. This would lead to what seems to be Shikamaru's victory, as he would raise his hand saying that he forfeits. Obviously, his opponent Temari wouldn't be too happy about this, as the victory is now hers. Hayate calls it out. Shikamaru Nara versus Temari. Temari wins. She would question Shikamaru, with him only replying that his chakra was about to run out, and he'd rather lose this fight than spend a month in the hospital for chakra exhaustion. She would laugh as she spun her fan back onto her back, saying that she likes him, at least in a form of "I respect you" way. On the other hand, the crowd is cheering, since even though this ended with a forfeit, the fight itself was amazing. Everyone enjoyed seeing this beautiful bout, and now we move on to the finale, or at least the final of the preliminaries, or whatever you want to call this startup. Sasuke Uchiha versus Gara. Gara would make his way down to the arena once again, as Sasuke is called upon multiple times, and as the final call for Sasuke Uchiha goes out, in a swirl of leaves, Kakashi Hatsuki and Sasuke Uchiha appear. And even upon appearing, something is immediately noticeable. Sasuke's Sharingan had progressed to 2 Tomo, as it is already blazing. And on the other hand, his look had also changed some. His hair is slightly longer, and his previously blue clothes are now completely black. There would be some cheering from the audience, and even Naruto sticking his head out of the medical window to be able to watch the fight, since this would truly intrigue him. On the other hand, we all know how this Sasuke versus Gara fight goes. Sasuke would show feats of extreme speed, not even close to that of Naruto's, but with a combination of ninjutsu, he's actually able to put Gara on the fence. Naruto, seeing this, who had originally wished that Gara would win, of course without hurting Sasuke to an extreme degree, he wanted to fight him. But seeing Sasuke's progression, Naruto wouldn't mind if Sasuke won this. This might be a fun fight for him. Who's faster? Whose techniques are better? Rasengan or Chidori? That's at least what Naruto sees. On the other hand, this would still end with the Genjutsu falling, as Garo would run off on his rampage. Sasuke, as per normal, would pretty quickly snap out and go after him. On the other hand, Naruto would actually be helped this time by Jiraiya breaking out of the Genjutsu. He'd say, "Hey kid, this is where you were. Someone casted a genjutsu over the arena, so I'ma go check that out. You should probably go after your friend, since that other guy looked like he just went insane. After this, you should meet up with me. I want to know what you did to fix the Rasengan issue." As Jiraiya would poof into a cloud of smoke. It seems that it had actually been a shadow clone. Naruto would frantically look around, slightly dazed, as he would see some of his friends in the middle of the arena. Sakura and Shikamaru had been immediately awakened like usual, as they would help everyone else. And, as usual, they would then proceed to go after Sasuke. The Sasuke chase would probably go no different, as Naruto might just arrive at Sasuke's location mere moments earlier. Everyone that have fought everyone initially would still go down, as in Shikamaru fighting off against the basically sound tuning / jonin to only be saved by Asuma as he almost faints, and the rest of the shinobi facing off against the Sand siblings. On the other hand, Naruto would arrive to Sasuke's location to see him being thrown around like a wet rag. But before Sasuke goes unconscious, he would see Naruto stopping Gara's sand, as Naruto would land a kick straight to Gara's face. Gara's defense had seemingly dropped since his transformation started. He is currently in a halfway state between his normal self and Shikaku. This is when it would click in Naruto's mind. He's a Jinchuriki. Naruto would then relentlessly begin to attack Gara, but nevertheless, this actually speeds up the process of the Shikaku transformation. And, like usual, Naruto would be forced into a situation where he has to use his summoning. At this point, Sasuke is basically pushed back up to a tree, watching the Naruto versus Gara exchange. When Gara transforms, Sasuke winces in pain as he thinks, "I can't die like this. I still need to kill Itachi," as he coughs up some blood. But when his eyes open once again, he sees Naruto on top of a giant toad, smoke clearing out of the air as a sword is drawn from its sheath, cleaving through Shikaku's belly. It would reassemble as he hits himself in said belly to somewhat shoot out wind-like bullets. As these giant-sized bullets fly across the sky, Gamahiro could not help but to dodge it. This exchange was getting on Naruto's nerves. The more the fight continued, the more jutsu were thrown. Both Gamahiro and Naruto were running low on chakra because not only of this exchange, but the immense amount of energy it takes to get around it. Gamahiro would finally talk. "Naruto, I need to tell you something." Naruto would be all ears. He said, "Hurry it up, because if it's not useful, we might die here." Gamahiro would explain in short and exact words that he himself had some form of Toad Kekkei Genkai. It works mainly off of nature energy, but it works similar to Naruto's swift release. By absorbing chakra from the surrounding area, he's able to increase his speeds, but at a point he becomes immobile. So if they were to do it, they would have to win in that exact moment. This isn't exactly swift release, but it is speed increasing. After comes a stun. Naruto would have a suggestion though. If we need to land exact sharp points of attacks, maybe we should assume a different form. Gamahiro would ask for an explanation, with Naruto suggesting that they use a combination of the transformation jutsu to turn themselves into the Nine Tails. The Nine Tails has a perfectly lean body that could land them some clean hits. It has claws and fangs, so they should be able to do things they won't normally be able to do. And since he has now 4 legs instead of 2 legs and 2 arms, he should be able to maneuver with the speed much better. Gamahiro would agree, as it would transpire. Sasuke, still sitting against the tree, would see this, and would say to himself, "Naruto has already tapped into the power of the Nine Tails." He would cough up some more blood as he would say, "How could I let myself fall behind this far?" More blood would leave him as his vision starts to blur, and he passes out. On the other hand, Naruto and Gamahiro now start the procedure. Gamahiro starts using all the nature energy he has stored up as he starts flying across the battlefield. Shikaku would make comment on, "Oh, Nine Tails! "QB, I haven't seen you in..." He couldn't even finish years as he gets slapped across the face. The marks clearly indicating it was a claw scratch, as he gets flung across the field from the opposite direction. "This speed! The Ninetales was never able to do this," Shikaku would scream out as he lets off wind bullets in every direction. Naruto and Gamahiro wouldn't falter, as Gamahiro would end his motion by grabbing Shikaku. This is where the freeze takes place. He is currently stunned. Naruto wouldn't let this get to him though, as the transformation breaks. Gamahiro is now clamped onto Shikaku as Naruto jumps over, hitting Gara straight in the face. Garo would wake up, but the transformation wouldn't yet fall, and this is where our initial Takano Jutsu would happen. Naruto and Garo would have a back and forth, with Garo trying to say that Naruto doesn't know how it is, but Naruto explaining that he knows exactly how it is. He had no one. Gara had people. There's still people that care for him. His brother, his sister. Just because his dad had tried to kill him doesn't mean that no one cares about him. He has people that he should protect, since as long as there are people to protect, there is something to live for. And as Naruto continues, Gara proceeds to see something. Every person that has ever cared about Naruto and every person Naruto has ever cared about. He would see each of them appear behind Naruto as they push him forward, with Naruto walking up to a child Gara, helping him up, and embracing him in a hug. This would be enough for both Gamahiro to dispel and for Shikaku sand to fall into each other, as Naruto and Gara on top of the sand slowly fall to the floor. They both now lay there chakra exhausted and in a state of panic, as Garo would say, "Your name's Naruto Uzumaki, right?" With Naruto saying, "Bet you I am, and I'm gonna be the Hokage," as he pumps his fist up into the air, with Gara saying, "Yes. Then I guess I'll be the Kazekage," as both of them fade into unconsciousness. At this point, we switch to an alternate perspective. We see Jiraiya and the third Hokage facing off against Orochimaru. But that is going to be all for this part, guys. I really do hope y'all enjoyed this returning series, and this series will be continuing and finishing soon. So if y'all do want to see more of these videos, make sure to smash like, subscribe, and comment down below how hyped y'all are for this to continue. And if you do want to help the channel support and sustain itself like all these wonderful folk, consider clicking the join button below or going down to the membership link in the description, since we are having a lot of currently member only series going on, like what if Ino and Naruto got together instead, and what if Naruto had dark matter release. And without further ado, this has been your boy Six. Peace.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
Subscribe for more.
Yada yada does it.